Okay, this example has our basic player movement. But what happens is when we hit one of the speed bumps, the speed increases for 2 seconds. And if we hit the green cube for a certain amount of time, we grow. And then when that time expires, the character becomes significantly smaller. So we're going to have a look at how to go and create these types of pickups / power-ups. So we've now got our basic scene with our player that can move and jump, and what we now want to do is create some prefabs for our pickups or power-ups. So I'm going to create a prefab, and I'm going to call it a pickup, and what we're going to then create is a prefab variant of that pickup, and we're going to call it pickup speed, and we'll make another one of those which is going to be called pickup size. So a variant is basically a prefab that's based off the original. So if I make a change to here, these two other ones there, but let's just go and make a couple little changes. And what we're going to do is go into pickup size and speed, and we're just going to add a 3D shape to those. So I'm just going to go component or game object, 3D object, and for size we're just going to use a cube, and I'm just going to rotate that at some different angles. And for speed, let's just go and use a sphere. And we won't worry about modifying that one. So we've got our basic shapes on here. Let's go into our materials folder and create some materials for these. Let's put one for speed, and one for grow. Actually, let's change that prefab name. Yeah, oh no, that's fine because it was called size. So let's go and change this color. Grow. Let's make the grow a nice yellow, and speed. Let's have a good Sonic sort of royal blue. So grow is going to be green, speed is going to be blue. Okay. So let's go to our sphere. Let's apply that texture onto it. Let's go into the size prefab and apply that grow texture. Make sure both of those are saved. So now we have our textures or materials that have been applied to our shapes. Now I want to go and modify this default pickup. I'm just going to add a general box collider, which is basically just a rectangle. So if we now look at that, if I go onto the pickup size, we can see that that parent object now has a box collider, and we're going to want that to be a trigger. I could manually just change it on this one, but note it hasn't modified it on both. So I'm going to want to actually make that change on the parent prefab, and then that have modified these variants. It didn't change that pickup size because I'd already manually modified it. Okay, so we've got these done. Let's go and just drag some of those onto our scene. So let's do a pickup size, and we'll put a pickup speed. Okay, we need to maybe move that one up a little bit, and let's do another pickup size. Stuff on the top there. What's quite nice here, let's see what happens if we go and update those sizes. Note, when I just modify that prefab variant, those sizes change. Now the reason why we tick that is trigger. is that it means we can now go and, oh, it's not letting us actually modify that, so let's just go and have a look at what's causing that. And what I believe it will be is when we go and add a 3D object, it by default has a box collider already attached to it. I am actually going to remove those colliders from those two existing objects. So from the speed one, it's going to be the sphere, just so the only collider that exists is on the parent of the object. What this means is that now when I run this, when my character moves around, we can see I can now overlap. And what we want to do is when the player overlaps the other object, so when the player is overlapping my power up, I want something to happen. So we're going to need to basically have a script for this. So let's go into our scripts folder and create a new script. And we're going to call this our player pickup manager. Okay, and the first thing we're going to deal with here is basically just do a check to see if they're overlapping. So we're not actually going to need these start and update functions. So we're going to, let's make that a little bit bigger for people. So check if the object's overlapping, and there's a pre-made function called onTriggerEnter, which takes an argument of the collider. So when whatever object that this script is attached to, it collides with something else, we're going to be able to check to see what it is actually hit with. This collider is the object it's hit. So if this script is attached to the player, this collider will be the collider of the pickup. And we're just going to get it to print out a message, a debug, say I hit something. Now we need to go and attach that to our prefab for the player. So we can now see my player pickup manager has been attached. And now we're going to run this. And we can see I hit something. I've got a few movement received debug messages, so I'm just going to go quickly and comment or remove those from other scripts. Now, as you're coding, it's always a good idea, once you've tested things fully, go and get rid of those excess debug messages, but don't get rid of them too quick. Okay, so I've now got my I hit something. So now when I run this, I should only be getting the I hit something message. It will make my debugging a little bit easier to handle. There we go, so I've hit something. Cool, but we don't know what we've actually hit at this point. So what we need to do is create what's called a tag. Now it doesn't really matter which object we use. I'm just going to go and select my pickup and open up that prefab, and in here, note, tag is untagged at this point. And I've got some predefined ones, so like a game controller, player, and so on. I'm going to go and add a tag, create a new one, call it pickup. I can actually have as many as I want of these. I'm just going to have one that's going to be able to handle all different pickups. It just makes our program a little bit more efficient. So now we'll switch back to our script. So we know we've hit something. So I'm just going to comment that out for now. Now we're going to do if the collider, compare the tag. Did I have it with a capital P? I cannot remember. I forgot one step. I've actually got to go and, once I've created the tag, assign it to pickup. So it's got a capital, yep, that's fine. So if we collide with the pickup, we're going to say I had a pickup. So we can see now it's determined that it's hit a pickup. And if our character jumps over it, it misses it. Cool. So we know that is now working. What we want to also do is basically go and essentially make this pickup like work for a certain number of seconds. So there's a fair bit of code that we've got to go through in this step. So what we're going to do is include what's called a coroutine. This is going to allow us to run some code at the same time as our main program. So we're going to make another little function. Let's call it timer, and it's going to take two arguments: a float time delay and a game object. Let's just call it geo for game object. Now, when this runs, we're going to pass it the time and the object, and we're going to make that object disappear. So the first thing we want to do is that game object dot set active to false, and that's going to make it disappear from the screen. Then what we want to do is run a yield command. So return new wait for seconds of time delay, and that will wait for time delay seconds. So the program will never go to these lines 23 and 24 until that amount of time. Let's say let's say time delay was 2 seconds was active. Now obviously we haven't called this, but how we actually run a coroutine is slightly different. Oh, it's not a void, it's an I enumerator. And what we're then going to do is run the start coroutine function, and we're going to run timer with our time, let's say 2 seconds, and we'll do the collider dot the game object that collider is for. And now let's go and have a look in Unity and see how this works. So we run through. What should happen is this little green box should disappear, and then after 2 seconds it reappears. So it's a way of handling our pickups on a sort of time delay. It means they're actually always there, they're still in memory, so it's relatively efficient. Obviously if we just wanted to destroy them, we could not run the coroutine and just do a destroy that game object. And so then when we run this one, we can see we've got a pickup size object here, and then it's removed from the entire window. So if it's only a single item that's only ever going to be there once we've dealt with everything, we can just destroy it. But in this case, we're not going to want to destroy it. We're going to just leave it there. We're going to start our coroutine. Now, we have, in this case, two different types of pickups. We've got a pickup size and a pickup speed. So we need to be able to know the different types of them. So we're just going to make a little script which we're going to attach onto that default pickup prefab, which is going to let us know what details it is. We're going to call it pickup properties. Normally you'd use this as like a struct, but in Unity it just makes it a bit easier if we leave it as a class, because the mono behavior allows us to have that extra information. So we should get that window popping up. There we go, pickup properties. Okay, we don't need anything else in it. We just need a public variable. We're going to have a public string type, And actually, let's also have duration. And that's going to be, let's say, 3 seconds by default. So we've got what type of pickup it is, and it's the length of time it's going to run for. So now we go back to our pickup manager. So we've got this one coroutine here for a timer. Okay, so that's all good here. What we now need to also do is determine what type it is and how we're going to impact that. Often the easy way is actually to have a bunch of different enumerators that are going to be able to handle our different types. So our first step, what I'm going to deal with, is I'm going to want to make sure to see if we've actually picked up one of these. So to be able to turn off and on our pickups. So I'm going to have private ball, speed, pickup active, and we're going to set it to false to start with, and we're going to have our size pickup active. And so those are both set to false. So what we now need to do is, now that I've got this little pickup properties, I'm going to go and attach it to my pickup prefab. So it's going to attach that on here, and I'm going to go back to my different prefabs. So I've got my pickup properties, so this is my size one, so we're just going to give that a type, and for speed we're going to give that one a type as well. So that now each one of these, it knows what it is. Okay, so let's just comment out that I had a pickup in the coroutine. So what we now need to do is determine type of the pickup that we've hit. And so we've got a few different little steps that we need to run through here. And what I want to do is determine if I've basically hit the size pickup. We're going to deal with that one first because it's easier to basically just manipulate the entire size of the object. I don't have to worry about going and getting access to the player movement script, which has our speed. So first step, what I want to do is I'm going to make a game object to store the pickup. And it's just going to get whatever the game object that we actually hit. I now need to basically get the properties. So to access that component, I need to use the exact same class name that I've used. So I'm just going to call this like pickup hit. So that's going to basically store which pickup I've actually gone and collided with. Now, if the pickup dot, I want to try to get a component, and the type of component I want to get is the pickup properties, and if it can find it, it is going to store that result in pickup hit. So what this does is gets the game object that we collided with. We'll go and look to see on the object that I hit, does it have a component called whatever I was looking for, pickup properties in this case. I could have looked for box collider or whatever. If it does, store it in this variable here. Now, I need to basically check the type of pickup. Now thankfully I now know that pickup hit gets me that script, and I can get the type of it, and I want to see if it is equal to size. So if pickup hit is equal to size, let's just print out a message. So we're just going to print out if the size was hit. So let's go and test that. So remember, the green ones are our size hits. Okay, so it said size hit. Let's go check a blue one. The blue one didn't do anything. Let's go to the other green. Alright, so we now know that we're able to hit those correctly. Let's see if we went and hit one of the other ones. Else, if it hits speed, let's just check that we can determine if we've hit the speed object. Okay, so size hit, speed hit, awesome. So we're now actually able to determine that we've hit the correct, basically, players and objects. Now what I might decide is, let's say, okay, after each of these, no matter what, we're going to always run one of these coroutines. I don't actually need it to be that one because I've actually got another one called pickup. So I'm just going to turn off that whatever pickup we hit, but I'm going to actually use pickup hit dot duration seconds. So that will go and turn off and on that pickup, depending on the amount of time that we've allocated to it. Let's go there, so we can see size hit has disappeared for 3 seconds. Let's select that one and just modify it to 1 second. And we can see 1001, it's appearing a lot quicker. So we've got that one coroutine for making them disappear. Now we need some coroutines for how long the pickup is actually going to run on the player and actually run the different effects. So what we need to do is probably have some more enumerators, but let's first just make sure, let's see if we can get it to run by default for the size. So what we're just going to do is transform dot local scale is assigned to transform dot local scale times 2. So that goes and runs this one, and the character has now got twice as big, but we aren't able to turn the character off. So we can sort of stack those. This is why we've had this speed pickup active. So let's just do that. Okay. So what we've now got, if we fit size, and let's do the speed pickup active is not on. Do that. And we're going to just turn it off. Okay. So now at least we can't pick up multiple stacks, but it's still not turning off. So what we're going to do is we'll run this little coroutine for this delay. What we're then going to do is, before we set this pickup to be active again, let's do if the speed pickup is active, let's just turn it off. And we'll also do the reverse of this. So it was 2 times the height. We should now shrink the player back down. So we can sort of see player's gone big, player's gone small again, player's gone big and small. So we're able to turn off and on our player. Now where we get a bit of a problem is this speed pickup, because the speed is currently stored as a private variable in our player movement function. We could just go and make this public and then we can access it directly, but a better method of handling this is make what's called getter and setter methods. So we're going to put get public void get speed, and that is just going to return the value of speed. And then we're going to make a setter variable which will set the speed. That's not going to return everything, it's going to just take one parameter, which is the speed, and update that private variable speed to whichever parameter we pass to it. Okay. Oh. And we need to tell it that it's going to return a float on that getter. So we've got getter and setter variables, well not variables, methods for that private speed. Really useful ways to protect the integrity of our local data. So we've now got our pickup manager. Okay, so speed's been hit. We need to somehow go and get the speed. So we're also going to do another try get component. We now know we've got our player movement. So we've got player movement. Let's just call it player movement. And we're going to do another one of these try get components. But except this time it's of, because this script is attached to the player, so we're just trying to get this player movement script here. So we just can do try get component, the name of the script we're looking for, and remember out player movement. So player movement script was found. And what we now need to do is go and work out what we need to do for our player. So what we're going to do is get our player movement dot what was it? We need to set the speed to be, let's just say, we'll get player movement dot get speed times 2, and we've also got that speed pickup active is now true. So let's go and see if we can get our player moving faster. Yep, way faster. And even faster again. Okay, once again, it's not turning off. So what we're then going to do is very similar to this last one here. So, oh, why did I do that one? That shouldn't have been speed pickup there, that should have been size pickup. I wonder how many people picked that one up. So that should be size pickup. So we've turned it off, and we actually need to do a chunk of this bit again as well. And we've got that variable player movement. Let's just take that down. So let's see if, and that's not multiplication, we want to, after the time expires, to divide it by 2. So to return our speed to what is needed. So we've got that there, and then when that pops back up, we've gone slower again. Now, what we can do is go and modify this. Let's go and add another public variable, public. So public, like a pickup impact multiplier. So what we're then going to do is on our pickup manager, rather than hard coding in these numbers, we can actually give it that. So we can basically now have pickup hit dot the multiplier, and we're going to need to modify that coroutine so that we can now actually just take that, the pickup hit. So we would need to pass that, it's that sort of multiplier. Actually, we don't actually need to do that. We can actually just pass it that value. We can just pass that one multiplier. Now you need to modify this so that it takes the multiplier. That one actually should be passing that whole value. So we now take that multiplier and we replace these numbers here. So now let's go and modify this. So this size cube is going to have a multiplier of 5. This one, it'll only last for 1 second, but the speed will last for 3. So let's look at how this works. Okay, so we've got a massive multiplier here. And let's go and grab this one. Oh, let's have a look at what happened. Pickup size, if you're multiplying 1 by 1, it gets the right size. So what we have here is ways to make pickups to change the parameters of your player. I apologize for this being quite a long tutorial, but I hope you found it useful. Remember, you'll make lots of mistakes and have lots of different ways of working through this, but fail upwards. Cheers.